The starport market was alive with sound and motion. Traders shouted over one another, each trying to draw customers to their stalls. The smell of spices mixed with the sharp tang of engine fuel. Screens flashed prices, lights blinked in neon, and the steady hum of thousands of voices filled the air. Among all this noise and color walked Ryan, a young mechanic with grease on his hands and tired eyes. Ryan did not come to the market for luxury. He needed parts for his workshop, simple things to keep broken ships running. He earned just enough each week to pay for fuel, food, and rent on the small space he lived in. Still, he liked walking the rows of stalls. The market was where one could see everything the galaxy offered: strange machines, exotic fruits, creatures from distant worlds. As Ryan passed a row of cages, he slowed. The traders in this part of the market sold animals, some rare, some ordinary. Most were bought as pets, others as guards or work beasts. He had seen many kinds before, but one cage at the end of the row caught his eye. Inside lay a dragon. Not the great and fiery beasts from the ancient tales, but a smaller creature, pale as snow. Its scales were almost white, its wings folded tightly against its body. But what made Ryan stop were the growths covering its skin. They bulged from its sides and tail like sharp crystals, glowing faintly with sick light. The creature's breathing was shallow, and its eyes half closed. It looked as if every breath brought pain. The trader beside the cage laughed when he noticed Ryan staring. "That one? Worthless," the man said. "Albino, sick, covered in rot. I should have thrown it out weeks ago." Ryan frowned. "Then why keep it here?" The trader shrugged. "Some fools like to look at oddities. But nobody will buy this one. It is weak, it will die soon. Not worth the food it eats." As the man turned to call another customer, Ryan crouched near the cage. The dragon lifted its head slightly, its dull eyes meeting his. For a moment, Ryan forgot the noise of the market. There was something in that look. Not anger, not even fear. Just a quiet, heavy plea. He reached a hand through the bars, moving slowly so as not to startle the creature. The dragon did not bite or hiss. It only gave a soft, broken sound, almost like a sigh. Ryan felt his chest tighten. He had seen many machines broken beyond repair, but never a living thing so full of silent pain. "Can I buy it?" Ryan asked suddenly. The trader blinked, then laughed louder than before. "You want to waste money on this? Fine. 50 credits. That is all. I will be glad to be rid of it." Ryan hesitated. 50 credits was almost all he had left after buying parts. He needed food for the week, fuel for the generator in his workshop. If he gave the trader his credits now, he would struggle later. But as he looked at the dragon again, the choice became clear. He could not walk away. "I will take it," he said firmly. The trader quickly unlocked the cage and shoved the creature forward. "Yours, then. Do not come back when it dies." Ryan slipped his arms under the dragon. Its body was lighter than he expected, bones sharp beneath skin. The growths along its back felt hot to the touch, and the creature trembled in his hold. He pulled his jacket around it to keep it warm and started toward the edge of the market. People stared as he walked. Some laughed, others shook their heads. He ignored them all. By the time Ryan reached the docking bay where his workshop waited, the noise of the market had faded behind him. The doors of his small space slid open, and he stepped into the quiet hum of tools and machines. He laid the dragon gently on a padded bench. The creature curled in on itself, wings twitching weakly. Ryan fetched water, poured some into a shallow dish, and set it nearby. He then began cleaning the worst of the wounds with soft cloths, careful not to press too hard against the crystal-like growths. The dragon gave a faint rumble, not of anger but of relief. "You will be safe here," Ryan said softly, though he knew the dragon could not understand his words. "I do not know what is wrong with you yet, but I will find out. I will not let you die." He sat beside the bench as the dragon rested. Outside, ships roared as they left the station, traders counted their profits, and the market went on as if nothing had changed. But for Ryan, something had changed. He had spent his last credits not on parts or food, but on a creature everyone else had given up on. As he watched the pale dragon breathing, fragile but alive, he felt a strange certainty. This was not just an act of pity. Something about the meeting in the market felt important, as if the path of his life had quietly shifted. And though he did not yet know it, the galaxy itself would soon be shifted as well. The albino dragon rested on the workbench while Ryan moved around his workshop. The room was small, packed with spare parts, tools, and half-fixed machines, but it was the only home he had. He had lived among wires and engines for years, and now this sick creature shared the space with him. At first the dragon did not move much. It drank only a little water and ignored the food he placed nearby. Ryan worried it would not survive the night. He sat near the bench, half dozing in his chair, ready to help if it made another weak sound. He thought about the choice he had made. The trader was right in one way. This creature might not live long. Ryan might have thrown away his credits. But when he looked at it, he felt the choice was right. Morning came with the glow of the station's artificial lights shining through the workshop window. Ryan stretched and walked back to the bench. The dragon was still alive. It lifted its head slightly, as if waiting for him. That gave him hope. "I will help you," he whispered. "I just need to understand what is wrong." Ryan was a mechanic, not a healer, but he knew how to study problems. Machines gave signs of what was broken. Maybe this creature would too. He carefully examined the dragon's body. The scales were soft and pale, but the growths looked like hard crystal, sharp and glowing faintly. They pulsed now and then, almost like they carried a hidden heartbeat. He touched one gently, and the dragon twitched in pain. "I am sorry," Ryan said quickly. He pulled his hand back. "These things hurt you, but they do not look like disease. They look like something else." He turned to his data terminal and began searching the medical records stored in the station's network. There were files on hundreds of species from across the stars, some common, some rare. Dragons were listed too, though most of the records were old. He read carefully, comparing the details to what he saw. Dragons with normal scales, dragons with dark colors, dragons used as guards. But nowhere did he find one described with crystal-like growths. Still, he did not stop. He cross-checked with energy research records, mineral reports, even old tales stored in cultural archives. Most people ignored such stories, but Ryan believed even myths sometimes carried truth. At last, one line caught his attention. It spoke of dragons that carried strange nodes in their bodies during times of great stress. These nodes looked like crystals and could glow with light. But the record ended quickly, with no clear answer. Ryan leaned back in his chair, frowning. "So it is not disease. It is something else. But why does it hurt you? And how can I help?" The dragon shifted slightly on the bench, its eyes watching him. They were brighter than yesterday, though still filled with tiredness. Ryan felt as if the creature understood him in some way, even if it could not speak. He tried another idea. If the crystals were part of the dragon's body, maybe they needed energy, like a machine that needed fuel. He searched for food that carried more minerals and heat, mixing small amounts from his supplies. He placed the dish near the dragon and stepped back. For a moment nothing happened. Then the dragon sniffed at the food and took a slow bite. Ryan's heart lifted. Yes, that is good. Eat, little one. Gain your strength. Hours passed. He continued to clean the wounds carefully, wrapping soft cloths around the places where the growths pressed hardest. He adjusted the lights to give the dragon more warmth, and he even moved an old heater near the bench. Slowly, the creature began to rest easier. It still trembled with pain now and then, but its breathing was stronger. At night Ryan sat again by the bench. He spoke softly, not knowing if the dragon could understand, but wanting to give comfort. You are not worthless, no matter what they said. You survived the cages. You are alive. And I will not let them laugh at you again. The dragon let out a low sound, almost like a purr. It closed its eyes and leaned its head toward his arm. For the first time since he had carried it from the market, it seemed at peace. Ryan smiled faintly. He knew the journey was far from over. The crystals still grew, still caused pain, and he still did not know their full meaning. But he had seen signs of change already. The creature had eaten, had lifted its head, had shown him trust. In the quiet of the workshop, Ryan thought about what lay ahead. He would need more supplies, more research, maybe even old records hidden in places few people cared to look. And he would need to guard the dragon, for if others learned what it truly was, they might try to take it. He looked at the glowing growths once more. They were strange, beautiful, and dangerous all at once. But they were also a mystery waiting to be solved. You and I, Ryan whispered, we will figure this out together. And as the station lights dimmed to mark the night cycle, the pale dragon rested in safety for the first time in many days, while the mechanic watched over it with steady determination. Days passed in the small workshop, and slowly the pale dragon began to change. Ryan noticed the difference first in its eyes. When he had carried it from the market, those eyes had been dull and heavy, almost empty of life. Now, each time he returned from repairing a ship or buying supplies, the dragon lifted its head and watched him. Its gaze was clearer, sharper, filled with quiet strength. Ryan spoke to it often. He knew it could not answer, but he believed his voice mattered. He would tell it about the work he did, about the broken engines that came into his shop, about the loud traders in the market. Sometimes the dragon rumbled softly as if it liked the sound of his voice. Ryan began calling it Snow, for its pale scales. One evening, while Ryan cleaned the workbench, he noticed something strange. His wrench, which he had left near Snow's tail, began to rattle. At first, he thought it was the vibration of a passing ship. But then the other tools on the bench trembled too, though no ships were near. He leaned closer and saw that the crystal growths on Snow's body were pulsing with light, faint but steady. Snow, he whispered, is that you? The dragon opened its eyes and gave a small sound. The light inside the crystals grew brighter for a moment, then faded. Ryan touched the nearest tool, still shaking lightly, and felt a faint hum through the metal. It was as if some hidden energy filled the air. From that night onward, the strange signs continued. Whenever Snow stretched its wings, lights flickered across the workshop. Sometimes the heater near the bench clicked off without warning, only to click back on a few seconds later. One morning Ryan woke to find his terminal running even though he had powered it down before sleep. The dragon lay nearby, its crystals glowing faintly. At first Ryan was unsure if these were good signs or bad. The trader in the market had called Snow sick and worthless. But machines did not react to sickness this way. They reacted to power. Ryan began to believe the crystals were not killing the dragon but awakening something inside it. He watched carefully. Snow ate more each day and moved with growing strength. Its wings unfolded a little farther, and its voice grew louder. When it rested, the crystals sometimes sent faint beams of light across the ceiling, like tiny stars. Ryan sat in silence, staring at the glow, feeling both wonder and unease. He tried recording the events on his terminal. The device showed high spikes of energy whenever Snow's crystals pulsed, though it could not identify the source. Ryan rubbed his chin as he read the results. If this energy is real, it is unlike anything I have seen. And if others discover it, they will not leave you alone. That thought troubled him. The station was full of greedy eyes and listening ears. Word of a glowing dragon could spread quickly, and there were many who would want to capture it. Ryan decided to keep Snow hidden as best he could. When he left for the market, he locked the workshop tightly and told no one about his new companion. Still, the signs grew harder to hide. One afternoon a customer came to the workshop, a miner whose ship had a broken thruster. While Ryan worked, Snow rested in the corner, covered with cloths. The miner frowned as he stepped inside. "Strange," the man muttered. "Your lights flickered the moment I entered." "Happens often." Ryan forced a smile. "Old wiring. The station is full of it." The miner grumbled but said nothing more. Ryan finished the repair quickly and watched nervously as the man left. Only when the doors closed again did he uncover Snow. The dragon blinked at him, its crystals glowing faintly, as if knowing it had been the cause. "You must be careful," Ryan said softly. "They will not understand. They will try to take you away." That night Snow showed another sign. As Ryan sat at his desk, the dragon lifted its head and stretched its wings. A sudden wave of warmth filled the room, though the heater was off. Ryan felt the air itself bending, heavy and strange, yet not painful. The papers on his desk rose into the air, floating gently before settling again. Ryan stared in amazement. "This is no sickness," he whispered. "This is something greater." Snow looked at him with calm eyes, as if agreeing. Ryan reached out and rested his hand gently against its neck. The crystals pulsed once, bright and clear, casting light across the walls. For a moment, the mechanic and the dragon seemed connected by something unseen. When the light faded, Ryan sat back slowly. He felt both excited and afraid. Whatever Snow carried inside it was powerful, maybe even dangerous, but it was also beautiful. He knew then that his life had truly changed. The path ahead would not be easy, but he would not abandon the creature he had saved. Outside, the station continued its endless rhythm of trade, noise, and motion. Inside the small workshop, a pale dragon glowed softly in the dark, and a young mechanic wondered what new secrets tomorrow would bring. The station's night cycle had fallen, and the workshop was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Ryan lay in his chair, half asleep, while Snow rested on the bench nearby. For many nights now, the pale dragon had grown stronger, but tonight something felt different. The air carried a strange tension, as if waiting for an unseen storm. Ryan stirred when the first light appeared. At first he thought it was the glow of a passing ship, but when he opened his eyes, he saw the crystals on Snow's body shining brighter than ever before. They pulsed steadily, throwing pale beams across the walls. Snow's chest rose and fell heavily, and a low sound rumbled from deep inside its throat. "Snow," Ryan whispered, standing quickly. "What is happening to you?" The dragon stretched its wings wide. The glow from the crystals grew so strong that the shadows of the workshop vanished. The tools on the shelves rattled and fell, clattering to the ground. The heater clicked on without power, the terminal lit up with strange symbols, and the air itself seemed to vibrate. Ryan shielded his eyes as the brightness grew. Then the crystals cracked open. They split like glass breaking, but instead of falling apart, they opened like flowers, releasing streams of light. Energy poured into the room, filling every corner with warmth and sound. Snow lifted its head high, letting out a roar that shook the very walls. It was not the weak cry of a sick creature. It was a call of life, strong and fierce. Ryan staggered back, his heart racing. He had never seen or felt anything like this. The floor trembled under his feet, and the ceiling lights flickered wildly, unable to compete with the glow pouring from the dragon. Snow rose from the bench, no longer trembling in pain. Its wings spread fully, their pale surface shining like silver. The crystals that had once seemed heavy and ugly now blazed with beauty, glowing with pure energy. Ryan could feel the pull of gravity itself bending around the creature. His tools floated into the air, spinning slowly as if caught in an invisible tide. The roar faded, leaving only silence and light. Snow stood tall, looking stronger and larger than it had before. Its eyes were bright, filled with a depth Ryan had never seen in any creature. For a long moment, dragon and mechanic stared at one another. Ryan felt as if the creature was speaking to him, though no words were formed. "You are not sick," Ryan whispered, his voice full of awe. "You were never sick. You were becoming something greater." Snow stepped forward, its claws leaving faint marks on the metal floor. The crystals pulsed gently, no longer wild, but calm and steady. The floating tools settled back down, and the workshop slowly returned to silence. Yet the air still carried a hum, a hidden rhythm that had not been there before. Ryan moved closer, reaching out with shaking hands. Snow lowered its head, allowing him to touch the side of its face. The scales were warm, the crystals soft with glowing veins of light. Ryan felt the energy flow beneath his fingers, like the thrum of a great engine. As he touched the dragon, an image flashed in his mind. It was not from his memory, but from Snow. He saw skies filled with dragons flying in great flocks, their crystals shining like stars. He saw hunters chasing them, nets and weapons striking, crystals torn away. He felt pain, fear, and loss. Then the vision shifted. He saw hope, the image of one small dragon surviving, carrying the power of its kind within. Ryan gasped and pulled back slightly. His heart pounded with the weight of what he had seen. Snow's eyes glowed as if confirming the truth. "You showed me," Ryan said softly. "Your people were hunted. You are the last, or one of the last. And these crystals, they are not a sickness. They are your strength." Snow rumbled deeply, the sound both sorrowful and proud. Ryan placed his hand on the dragon's neck once more, his decision firm. "No one will take you again," he said. "Not while I live. You trusted me, and I will protect you." The dragon blinked slowly, almost like a bow of thanks. The light of the crystals dimmed slightly, settling into a calm glow that filled the room with peace. For hours after the awakening, Ryan sat beside Snow, unable to sleep. His mind turned over the vision again and again. The traders in the market had laughed at the dragon, calling it worthless. Yet here stood a being of incredible power, carrying history and memory within its very body. If the wrong people discovered this, the station would become a trap of greed and danger. But Ryan also felt hope. Snow was alive, strong, and no longer in pain. The creature had chosen to share its truth with him. Together, they were no longer just a mechanic and a broken animal. They were partners, bound by trust and purpose. As the station lights brightened with the coming day cycle, Ryan finally leaned back, his eyes heavy. Snow rested calmly beside him, crystals glowing like stars that refused to fade. The awakening had come, and nothing would ever be the same again. The workshop had never felt the same since the night of Snow's awakening. The air seemed alive now, carrying a faint hum, as though unseen power flowed through the walls. Ryan noticed it most when he worked with tools. Engines started easier, circuits sparked brighter, and even broken machines seemed to respond faster to his repairs. He suspected Snow's presence had changed more than just the small room. Snow rested nearby most of the time, glowing faintly with calm energy. The crystals no longer looked painful. They pulsed softly like steady heartbeats. The dragon's body was stronger, its wings stretched wide when it moved, and its eyes shone with intelligence. Ryan had saved many machines in his life, but never a life like this. He could not stop thinking about the vision Snow had shared with him. The sight of flocks of dragons in glowing skies. The pain of hunters tearing crystals from their bodies. The silence that followed when their kind vanished. That memory had not been a dream. It had been truth passed directly into his mind. One evening, while Ryan tightened a ship's panel, he looked toward Snow and said quietly, "You wanted me to see it, didn't you? You wanted me to know." Snow lifted its head, as if listening. The crystals brightened slightly. "You are not just a creature with strange growths," Ryan continued. "You are carrying the history of your kind. Those crystals, they are more than power. They are memory, maybe even life itself." Snow blinked slowly, and once again Ryan felt a wave of images press against his thoughts. This time they were clearer, easier to follow. He saw a world far away, mountains high and skies vast, where dragons soared in groups. They shared light with one another, their crystals glowing in patterns like living stars. He saw young dragons learning to fly, old ones resting in caves where their crystals shone like lanterns. Then came the darkness. Ships from other worlds descended, armed with nets and cutting tools. Dragons roared in defiance, but their light was torn away. Hunters prized the crystals, using them as fuel, as weapons, as treasures. One by one, the dragons fell. The skies that had once been full grew empty. Finally, the vision showed Snow. Alone, small, and weak, but alive. The pain of the crystals growing had nearly broken it, yet survival had given it strength. The memory ended with an image of Ryan lifting the dragon from the cage, carrying it away from the jeering crowd. The connection faded, and Ryan breathed heavily. His hands shook as he pressed them against the workbench. Snow's eyes glowed, calm and steady, waiting for his response. "You showed me everything," Ryan whispered. "You trusted me with the truth." He stood and walked closer, resting his hand gently against the dragon's warm scales. "You are the last link to your kind. Those traders never knew. They saw sickness, but it was life all along. And now that power lives in you." Snow rumbled softly, leaning into his touch. Ryan felt a surge of warmth move through him, not painful, but comforting. It was as if the dragon was sharing its gratitude. For a long while, Ryan sat beside Snow, lost in thought. The revelation filled him with both wonder and fear. He had never imagined such a secret could exist in his small workshop. If others learned of it, they would not hesitate to capture Snow, just as they had hunted its kind before. The galaxy had always been hungry for power, and this dragon carried more than anyone could measure. Yet the revelation also gave Ryan purpose. He was no longer only a mechanic struggling to earn credits. He was now a guardian of something ancient and rare. Snow had chosen him, and he would not betray that trust. The next day, Ryan returned to the market, but his eyes saw the place differently now. The traders shouted, selling trinkets and parts, unaware that just beyond their walls, a living treasure rested in his care. He bought extra food and supplies for Snow, ignoring curious glances from those who noticed him carrying more than usual. As he walked back, he thought about what the vision had shown him. The hunters had destroyed the dragon's world for greed. The same could happen here if the truth spread. Ryan knew he must protect Snow's secret at any cost. Back in the workshop, Snow greeted him with a soft rumble, its crystals glowing as if happy to see him. Ryan placed the food down and smiled. "Do not worry. I will keep you safe. I will keep your memory alive." That night, as Snow curled beside him and the crystals glowed gently in the dark, Ryan made a silent promise. He would not let the last of the albino dragons be lost. He would shield it from those who sought only profit. And maybe, just maybe, together they could find a way to rebuild what had been destroyed. The revelation had changed everything. What had begun as an act of pity in the market had become a bond of trust between a human and a dragon. A bond strong enough to shake the course of the stars themselves. The days following Snow's awakening passed quietly at first, but Ryan knew peace would not last. The market traders were quick to gossip, and unusual events rarely went unnoticed on the station. Rumors of a pale dragon glowing with strange energy had begun to spread. Ryan worried that curiosity and greed would bring dangerous people to his workshop. He had spent the morning repairing a ship when he noticed two strangers lingering near the station entrance. Their clothing was dark, their posture confident, and they carried bags that hinted at tools of capture. Ryan recognized the type immediately: mercenaries, skilled in taking things that did not belong to them. He returned to the workshop quickly, careful not to show panic. Snow rested on the bench, the soft glow of its crystals casting calm light across the walls. Ryan crouched beside the dragon. "They may know," he whispered. "And if they do, they will come for you." Snow lifted its head, blinking slowly. The dragon seemed to sense the danger even without words. Its tail twitched, and the crystals pulsed faintly as if readying themselves. Ryan took a deep breath. He would not let them take Snow without a fight. The first knock came late in the afternoon. Heavy, deliberate, and full of threat. Ryan moved to the door and looked through the small window. Two men stood outside, their faces obscured by helmets, their weapons visible at their sides. One of them held a device that emitted a faint hum. Ryan's heart pounded, but he held his ground. "I am not interested in trading," Ryan said loudly, keeping his voice steady. "Go away." The first man's voice came through a speaker. "We are here for the dragon. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. Hand it over." Ryan shook his head. "It is not for sale. Leave now." There was a pause. Then the sound of movement, metal scraping against metal. The mercenaries were preparing to enter by force. Ryan stepped back, his mind racing. There was no way he could fight them alone. But he did have Snow. "Snow," he said quietly, I need you. The dragon's eyes brightened. Its crystals glowed stronger, and a low rumble built in its chest. The energy in the workshop thickened, and the air vibrated. The first blow of the mercenary's tools struck the door, but it did not break. Snow stretched its wings slightly, and the walls trembled. Ryan realized the dragon's power was growing. The energy from the crystals was not just light. It was force, capable of defending them both. He moved closer to Snow, touching its side. The dragon leaned into his hand, acknowledging his presence, ready to act. The mercenaries tried again, striking with more force. But the workshop responded. Tools lifted into the air, floating as if guided by an invisible hand. The floor shook, and the attackers stepped back, cautious for the first time. Ryan's fear began to shift into hope. Snow released a rumble that grew into a roar. It was not angry or weak like before. It was full of life and power. The crystals along its body sent waves of light across the room. The beams of energy bent the air, lifting objects slightly and pushing back the intruders. The mercenaries hesitated, their confidence fading. Ryan spoke calmly, though his heart raced. You will not touch it? Leave now. The leader of the two stepped forward, waving the hum-emitting device. You do not understand what we can do. Hand over the dragon or face consequences. Snow roared again, the sound echoing through the station. The crystals pulsed brighter than ever. A wave of energy shot forward, stopping the device in its tracks. Sparks flew, and the metal hum faded to silence. The second mercenary stumbled back, wide-eyed and speechless. Ryan felt a mixture of awe and fear. Snow had defended them both, showing a strength no one had expected. The pale dragon was no longer the weak creature from the market. It was a being of incredible power, capable of protecting itself and Ryan. The mercenaries glanced at each other, realizing the fight was lost. Slowly, they backed away, then ran toward the station exit. Ryan watched them leave, still breathing hard. Snow's crystals dimmed slightly, settling into a calm glow again. Ryan knelt beside the dragon, placing his hand on its neck. You were amazing, he whispered. They will not try that again. Snow purred softly, leaning into him. Ryan knew the threat had not disappeared completely. Rumors would continue, and others might come looking. But for now, the dragon had shown its true strength. Together, they could face whatever came next. The station continued its rhythm outside, unaware of the battle that had just taken place in the small workshop. Inside, a pale dragon rested, calm and strong, while the young mechanic watched over it, filled with both pride and determination. The threat had come, but Snow had awakened fully, and Ryan knew they were ready. The station had never seen anything like it. Word of a pale dragon glowing with strange energy spread quickly, carried by traders and travelers who had glimpsed it from a distance. Curiosity and fear pulled crowds toward Ryan's workshop. Merchants whispered to one another, engineers paused in their work, and even guards moved cautiously, unsure of what they would face. Ryan stood inside the workshop, Snow resting on the bench nearby. The dragon's crystals glowed faintly, calm but alert. The air was heavy with anticipation. He knew that some would come expecting a weak, sick creature. They would not expect the strength Snow carried. The first wave of people arrived as the afternoon lights brightened the station. A group of mercenaries, larger than before, marched toward the workshop. Their confidence was obvious. They had weapons and tools, and they believed nothing could stop them. Ryan stepped forward, keeping himself between Snow and the intruders. You will not touch it, he said firmly. Leave now. The leader laughed, waving a device that hummed with energy. We are not here to negotiate. The dragon belongs to those who can take it. Snow lifted its head. Its eyes glowed brighter, and the crystals along its body pulsed in steady rhythm. The hum of power filled the workshop, vibrating in every corner. Ryan stepped back slightly, heart pounding, but he did not move away. He trusted Snow. The mercenaries advanced. Tools rattled and devices emitted warning sounds. As they crossed the threshold, Snow stretched its wings fully. The crystals shattered their calm glow, releasing light that bent and twisted through the air. A wave of energy flowed outward, stopping the mercenaries in place. They looked around in fear as their weapons lifted from their hands, floating gently in the air. Sparks jumped from the devices they carried, and metal bent slightly under the invisible force. The crowd outside gasped, unable to understand what was happening. Ryan held his ground. I said leave, he repeated, voice steady. You cannot take what you do not understand. Snow's roar filled the workshop, echoing into the station. It was not a roar of anger but of power, of life awakened. The crystals pulsed with light, sending beams across walls and floors, bending the air itself. The energy was strong, yet it caused no harm to anyone. The mercenaries staggered backward, stunned by the display. Some dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by the sheer force. Their devices fell silent, useless against the dragon's power. The leader's confident expression faded into fear. He motioned for retreat, but his men could barely move. Outside, station workers stopped and stared, mouths open in disbelief. Merchants whispered, and even the guards hesitated. The dragon they had been told was weak, sick, and worthless now stood radiant and powerful. What had once been seen as a joke was now awe-inspiring. Ryan stepped closer to Snow, placing a hand gently on its side. You are safe, he whispered. We will not let them take you. Snow lowered its head, letting the light dim slightly, settling into a calm glow. The floating tools dropped gently back onto the floor, the hum of power fading but not disappearing. The workshop was quiet again, but everyone who had watched knew something extraordinary had occurred. The mercenaries retreated completely, stumbling toward the exit, their confidence gone. They would carry the story of the dragon back to others, but no one would doubt the power they had witnessed. Ryan knew this display had made a mark on everyone present. The crowd outside the workshop murmured and whispered. Traders, engineers, and station workers all spoke of the pale dragon, its glowing crystals, and the incredible display of energy. No one had ever seen anything like it. The once dismissed creature had shocked the entire station. Ryan looked at Snow, pride and relief filling his chest. The dragon was calm again, safe in the small workshop. Its eyes met his, bright and intelligent. For the first time, the young mechanic truly understood the bond between them. Snow had trusted him with its life and its power, and he had protected it. This changes everything, Ryan said softly. Not just for us, but for everyone who saw. You are stronger than anyone imagined. Snow rumbled softly, a sound of agreement and comfort. The crystals glowed gently, a light that promised safety and life. Ryan knew their journey was only beginning, but the first obstacle had been overcome. Together, they had proven that even what appears weak or broken can hold unimaginable strength. Outside, the station began to return to its normal rhythm. Yet the story of the pale dragon spread like wildfire. Rumors became tales, and tales became legends in the making. Everyone who had witnessed the light and power knew they had seen something unique, something that would not be forgotten. Ryan stayed beside Snow that night, watching as the dragon rested peacefully. He felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known before. The workshop no longer felt small or ordinary. It was the home of the last albino dragon, a creature of light, memory, and strength. And in the quiet hum of machines, with crystals glowing softly in the dark, Ryan understood the truth of what they had faced together. The dragon had been weak no longer, and the galaxy had been shown its power. What had begun as an act of kindness in a bustling market had ended in a revelation that shocked everyone. The last albino dragon and the young mechanic had survived the threat. They were ready for whatever the stars would bring next. And the galaxy would never see anything like Snow again.